My name is Isaiah Werner, and this is my testimony, my story so far. When I was 6 years old, in the parking lot of a McDonald's, my dad decided that that was the appropriate time to explain to me my name. Now, if any of you are parents out there and you have kids and you've given them names that you think really mean something, I can assure you that the parking lot of a McDonald's when they're 6 years old is not the right time to explain to them the biblical significance of their name. They won't remember any of it, I promise. I don't remember the majority of that conversation. But at the end of the conversation, my dad did say something that really stuck with me. He said, "Isaiah, you are very special. There is no one in the world exactly like you, and I love you very much." And then he said that God felt the same way about me, that I'm very special, and that he made me individually special, and that he loved me very much. And that's why he died for my sins. Now, even though I was 6, I had spent a lot of time in church. If I wasn't at home or at my grandparents' house, I was at church. And so I had heard the phrase, "Jesus died for my sins," a lot. And it really didn't mean much to me. But to hear my dad say it, and to explain it in the way that God feels the same way about me as my dad does, and that's why he died for me. Because he couldn't bear to live through eternity without me, because he loves me that much. Well, that changes everything. And even as a 6-year-old, I get that. And so that night, in the living room with my parents on the couch, I prayed a very simple prayer and I asked Jesus into my heart. And essentially that was the start of my faith journey with Jesus. And so from there on, I grew up, I think as most people would say, as a pretty simple, stereotypical Christian kid. Especially growing up in Oklahoma, in the middle of the Bible Belt. I went to school, I went to church a lot, I made good grades, and I didn't get into a lot of trouble. The main struggle I had growing up was becoming complacent in my faith, becoming comfortable, because Christianity really, especially at a young age, came easily to me. It was part of my family. It was something I truly believed in, and it was part of who I was. And I struggled with my testimony at that time, always fearing that it was simple, and that it was boring, and that no one really cared about my story or my testimony because it had always kind of been part of who I was, and it was easy. And so I graduated high school, and then I went to college, and after 4 years I graduated college, and after college I got married. And my wife and I, both having acting degrees, decided that it would be good to move to a city where there was a vibrant arts community. And so we picked Chicago. And so being as it was our first Christmas away from home this past Christmas, my family came to be with us. My mom, my dad, my younger brother, and my younger sister were all here, and we had a fantastic Christmas in the city. And then the day after Christmas, on the 26th, in the streets of Chicago walking to dinner, my dad, at the age of 46, had a freak heart attack, and he passed away. Now, for any of you who have lost a parent, you know how hard that is. And for any of you who have lost a parent who was young, you know that that's even harder maybe. And then for me, it wasn't just my dad, but it was my spiritual mentor. It was my go-to guy for questions about faith and God and religion. And so it hit me in a really difficult way. After the funeral, my mom gave me a sealed envelope with my name on it. And so I went to my room and I opened it up, and it was from my dad. And he had written in 1989, which was just a little over a year and a half after I was born. And he said a lot of those same things that he said to me in the car in the parking lot of McDonald's. The bulk of the letter was him explaining my name. And I'm so thankful for that because I get it now. My dad writes in the letter that he really felt like God was saying that I was going to be a mighty man of God. And then he said that they prayed for a name and that they really felt like God gave them the name Isaiah. and they saw that the name Isaiah means Jehovah is salvation. And so for me, reading this letter at the age of 23, right after my dad has passed away, is one, very encouraging, and two, very difficult, because how do I live up to that? Where do I even begin to live up to that? And so I struggled with that for a few months. And then I had a conversation on the phone with my brother about a month ago, and he was talking to me about a conversation that he had had with some of his friends, and how he had been reminded that his life and his testimony and his story was a continuation of my dad's, and that my life and my story is a continuation and a representation of my father's, and that in turn, my dad's story was a continuation and a representation of Jesus' story. That gives me something to shoot for, because I know the way my dad lived, and I know the great things that he did, and I can aspire to be that. And so that's where I'm at right now, is living every day to be a representation of my father, and on a grander scheme, to be a representation of Jesus. And that's encouraging to me. And I hope that that's encouraging to you, to know that no matter how simple or easy your salvation may have been, or how difficult and complicated your faith journey with Jesus has been, that it matters, and that people can be led to live better lives because you showed them how, because Jesus showed you how. And so that's my story.